9, 8, 7. MCC to control confirming even 5 more completed. 4. MCC to control confirming engine 5 start. 2, 1, 0.
Ignition confirmed.
Liftoff. Plus 5 seconds.
Liftoff confirmed.
Plus 10 seconds.
P3 tracking.
Plus 15 seconds.
P4 tracking.
AgniKul Cosmos, an IIT Madras incubated space startup, has made history by launching the world's first rocket with a single-piece 3D printed engine. Now, this achievement is a testament to the entirely indigenous design and development efforts. The rocket, named Agnibaan sorted, which basically stands for Suborbital Technology Demonstrator, also marks India's first semi-cryogenic engine-powered launch. Now, the rocket took off from Dhanush, also a first, India's first private launch pad established by AgniKul, and the second company to do so after Skyroot Aerospace in 2022. This mission aimed to test in-house technologies, gather crucial flight data, and ensure the optimal functioning of systems for Agnibaan's orbital launch vehicle. Now, unlike traditional sounding rockets that launch from guide rails, Agnibaan sorted lifted off vertically and followed a predetermined trajectory, performing a precisely orchestrated set of maneuvers during its flight. Today's successful launch, after holding off 4 previous attempts, was the culmination of thousands of hours of reviews and close coordination between AgniKul, InSpace and ISRO to design and build original space-worthy hardware in India. Now, founded in 2017 by Srinath, Ravichandran, Moin SPM and Satya Chakravarti, AgniKul Cosmos became the first company in the country to sign an agreement with ISRO under the InSpace initiative in December of 2020. This agreement granted AgniKul access to ISRO's expertise and facilities to build Agnibaan. Our vision is really about making sure that going into space is as easy as going to any other point on Earth. It shouldn't be harder than that. Srinath Ravichandran told us this on Young Turks when we had them on in 2021. Hello and welcome to Young Turks, India's longest-running show on startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Shereen Bhan, and joining us on the program today to celebrate the launch of Agnibaan and talk about the future of India's space program, I'm joined by Srinath Ravichandran, the co-founder of AgniKul Cosmos, and Pawan Goenka, the chairman of InSpace. Gentlemen, congratulations from all of us here on the Young Turks team. What a proud moment it is for you and your teams, and of course for all of us as citizens of India. So hearty congratulations. Before I get into the details of the launch, Srinath, to you first. At 7:50 a.m. this morning, as you were preparing for the launch, given the fact that you've had 4 previous holes, so 5th clearly a charm for you, what was going on in your mind at that point in time?
So at that point in time, I was just, waiting to see the actual flight happen, because we've been waiting for all the other moments. Every other part of the countdown went through well. So at that moment, I was just waiting for the actual flight to happen. And it was a very smooth liftoff. If you've seen some of the videos that has been posted by IIT Madras. So after that, it was just following the screens throughout, looking at where the engine chamber pressures were, what the latitude and longitude was tracking, and which is when I really started digesting the fact that, yes, we're actually flying. So, yeah, unbelievable moment. A lot of dreams coming together today.
Yes, clearly a dream come true for so many of you and your team. Dr. Goenka, the same question to you. You've, of course, been closely involved with the AgniKul team and all the other space tech startups in the country. But for you to actually witness this launch event, take me through what was going on in your mind.
Well, Sreen, good to talk to you. So first of all, let me say that I am honored to be sharing this screen today with Srinath, who is the hero of the day for the country. So let me say that for AgniKul and for India, this was really a very big achievement. As you said earlier, that it took about 5 or 6 tries to get here, but that I don't think matters, because what matters is finally the team was resilient, was determined, was focused on the goal, and today they succeeded in the first mission that they have tried. What is going through my mind was fingers crossed, because we came so close 3-4 times before, and last time was just 1 second away from starting the launch. So I was hoping that this time we don't see any difficulties and the launch goes off, and it did. Unfortunately, I couldn't go back to Sriharikota today, and therefore I had to watch it from my office in Ahmedabad. But it was equally exciting to see that and see all the people cheer and sort of abrupt after the launch in terms of clapping that I saw and applaud that I saw.
Yes,
Really compliment to the team in the way they have pulled it through.
I would imagine that mission control centers, both at ISRO as well as at the AgniKul, premises, would have erupted as we saw that launch finally take off. But Srinath, I want to come back to you because there are several firsts that are being attributed to this specific launch. It's India's first rocket launch from a private launch pad. It's India's first semi-cryogenic engine-powered rocket launch. It's the world's first single-piece 3D printed engine. Now, explain the significance of each of these attributes and each of these facets, and B, take our viewers through how long it's taken you and your team to basically get to this point.
First thing, of course, is launching from our own private launch pad. This means a lot from two aspects. One is from the policy and framework standpoint. There's so much clarity in space policy today compared to how it was when we started, wherein nothing was put in set in stone. And to the point where now we're able to actually have our own launch pad, which is synced completely with ISRO's other control systems and so on, and we're able to get a launch done. In the long run, this means we can be a lot more independent. Of course, we'll always have to be, approved by InSpace and working with ISRO safety teams, but our launch cadence can be determined completely by our customer needs and so on. So there's a lot of flexibility there. Second, I think from a technology standpoint, of course, we've been testing this 3D printed engine, a single piece rocket engine. We have a patent on this, but to actually fly it makes a whole lot of difference. It proves that the technology can also, actually power things to orbit. So I think from that standpoint, it proves an entire case study that we have on how 3D printed engines are the way to go. Other than that, I think this is also the first semi-cryogenic flight from India. Again, I think this is a very interesting fuel combination. It's a clean fuel combination. It's one of the fuel combinations that took humans to the moon, and it's been used since then. But to use it with what we call as aviation turbine fuel and liquid oxygen, basically industrial grade propellants, and actually get a flight out of it and get the required performance out of it was its own journey. So I think this also allows us to basically have readily available propellants to get the launch done. And finally, last but not least, a lot of small things as well, right? The avionics architecture was driven by Ethernet and so on, things that have not been attempted directly in India before. So all of these things are driven towards our bigger vision. Like you mentioned from a previous conversation, right? The ability to actually go and say, going to any point in space should be as easy as going to any point on Earth. That is what all of this is geared to.
How much of a leap have you taken in being able to achieve the vision that you've set out? What do these breakthroughs mean for space tech, for the industry, for the sector?
I think it addresses two key points for us. One is the ability to launch anywhere. This is a mobile launch pad setup that we launched from. And being able to launch from any authorized launch pad in India is an important aspect of getting anyone to space at any time. So this got validated here. Also, making rocket engines quickly is one of the key factors in making launches more frequent. If you look at what makes launches come at a certain slow frequency today, the biggest contributor to that is the time it takes to make a rocket engine. In our single piece engine, we are able to get an entire engine done in 72 hours.
72 hours?
That allows us to make rocket engine. Yes. Because the entire engine is 3D printed in one shot. There is no human interference in the process.
Okay.
And so since we are able, and we do this in our own rocket factory, there's a lot of end-to-end control in how we're able to get this out quickly. So being able to make rockets quickly and being able to launch them from any authorized launch pad, I think these are things that are going to make space accessible to everyone. So
Srinath, just for context, you said that it took you 72 hours to do the engine on account of the 3D printing process that you've put in place for Agnibaan. What would it have otherwise taken you?
It depends. I think it usually takes about 12 to 16 weeks if you do it the conventional way. I'm generalizing here a little, but yeah, it's about that time frame, 3 to 4 months to make an engine.
Okay.
So I think that we have completely cut short to, at max a week or so.
Take me through where things currently stand in the efforts to amplify the momentum that we're already seeing.
So, Sreen, in the last 2-3 years, we have really seen tremendous effort that is being put in by the young startups and also the older companies that are engaged in space in various aspects. And what I am most happy to see in case of AgniKul and in many other startups that I would name is that they're not just taking what ISRO has done and replicating it. They are moving the technology forward. So just like what we talked about here, the 3D, single-piece 3D printed engine. First time it has been done for semi-cryogenic. This is something that ISRO hasn't done so far. And I'm so happy to see that the companies like AgniKul are doing those kind of things. And similarly, if you look at, say, Pixel, for example, they have a hyperspectral imaging that they're developing. They will be launching a Firefly satellite of 18 satellites constellation. Brigantra are doing new things. I'm sure they have been on your program also in terms of SSA, space situational and awareness. And so Galaxy, so Dhruva Space. So each of these companies in a specific field that they have chosen are moving the technology forward and bringing in new things and making the Indian space sector kind of technologically advanced, adding to what ISRO has done, and also making it available at a lower cost because of technology they have put in. So just like Srinath mentioned, that doing this engine in 72 hours compared to what may be 2 months of effort allows him to be able to turn around very quickly and meet the customer requirements at a very short notice. And that will make his launch vehicle very attractive to global customers to come here in India and launch their satellites from these vehicles. In the last 2-3 years, we have seen number of startups grow to about 200. And equally important, the investment that's coming in is very large now. We have crossed $140 million in the last year. And we hope that with FDI will go beyond that this year.
We are going to take a break here on Young Turks, but when we return, we continue our conversation about the big launch of AgniKul, creating a milestone for India. Welcome back. You're watching Young Turks. We're in conversation with Dr. Pawan Goenka and the co-founder of AgniKul, an Indian startup that has created history today. We've seen AgniKul finally take off. What can we expect in the rest of this fiscal year?
We look at the Skyroot that had done suborbital launch in 2022 to start doing the orbital launch. And hopefully by end of this year or early next year, we will see orbital launch of Skyroot happen. And after that, they will get into a commercial application. Similarly, what AgniKul has demonstrated today with the suborbital launch will translate to orbital launch. And Srinath to tell you when he expects to do that. I want him to do it faster than he thinks or he wants, so that also becomes another offering from India. And the third one is the SSLV rocket, which was developed by ISRO. And right now in the process of getting transferred to private sector using a bidding process. We'll also start producing on a commercial basis, the rockets starting next year. So all these three will make us very well equipped to handle small launches or small satellite launches for global requirement. And we have the new launch center that's coming up in south of Tamil Nadu. And that will create the capacity. So that's one piece. The second piece is to do with overall satellites and payloads, where Pixel is playing a very big role, and they have their constellation that will be launched starting this in the next 3 to 4 months. And that's going to be a very big offering in terms of providing service, again, not just in India, but globally. Dhruva Space is making another sort of foray or new thing where they are going to provide satellite as a service. And they have a satellite called LEAP. There for the first payload will be coming up from outside India actually, and creates almost a new sort of business opportunity for Indian startups by creating satellite as a service. Galaxy is getting into totally new technology, SAR technology that is again going to be giving imaging, which has never been done before, first time in the world.
The orbital launch, Srinath, what's your timeline and what's the timeline that Dr. Goenka has given you?
One thing that we were able to achieve in this launch is, we validated all of the software and the guidance, navigation, and control algorithms that are needed for orbital flight. So ideally, it should not take that long to get to orbit. We'll target something like within this financial year to get it done. Let's see if that is the timeline that Dr. Goenka will be okay with. I think about 6 to 9 months should be a good time frame to target.
Give us a sense of where the funding you believe is most likely to come in from, and also in terms of G2G partnerships and government linkages, global government linkages with India's private sector startup ecosystem. What do you see on that front?
The space sector is a sector that globally is getting a lot of attention from investors everywhere, and in India, couple of successes like what we saw today in AgniKul would clearly create a lot more interest in investment, both from Indian investors as well as from investors from outside India. We have talked, I have talked personally to at least half a dozen VC funds in India, and they're all kind of waiting in the wings. Some of them have jumped in and invested, some of them are waiting to see what's happening next. And I think that with the success of AgniKul today and with few more things that I expect to happen in the next 3 to 4 months, there will be a significant positive interest that will come in from within India. And from outside India, we have had many inquiries from even sovereign funds to see whether they can come in and invest in the space sector in India. Frankly, for some of these funds, the ticket size right now is not large enough to be able to come in, and some of them, the VC funds from outside, are looking at the Indian space sector very, very carefully. This now coming to G2G and G2B collaboration. I think we need to do a lot of work in showcasing what Indian space sector is all about. ISRO is well known. Everybody in the world knows what ISRO is able to do, what it has done, and what it can do. What is not well known is what the Indian private sector can do in space. We have to bring visibility to all of this. And I think once we do that, the inherent benefit that India has in terms of the sort of favorable cost, added to it the technology that we are bringing in, where ISRO was always up there, now private sector is also getting there, and the quality consistency, reliability that we have in all the ISRO offerings, which same thing I hope that private sector will also be able to emulate. I think we'll have a very powerful offering for the globe, quality, reliability, technology, and cost.
Absolutely.
And when we add it all together, I hope that the ambitious plan that we have set up of reaching $44 billion of space economy by 2033 can be met.
As far as AgniKul is concerned, where do you see demand? What kind of demand are you already starting to see? And what does that mean in terms of your ability to scale up? You've raised about $40 million so far. The last round you did about 27 odd million. Are you in the market for more funds?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of customer demand in the small satellite space. There are people looking to build better imaging satellites, better communication satellites, and there's a lot of validation of small satellites addressing the commercial demand from the entire Starlink configuration, constellation of satellites working. So we see that as a recurring demand. We see that from Europe. We see that from Asia. We see that even from the US sometimes. But I think the more interesting aspect is all the players who are now waking up and understanding what data from space can do for them. Right now, this is opening up an entire new set of customers, an entire new set of applications that can be done from space. People are looking at doing a lot of manufacturing processes that need microgravity. People are trying to shift cooling systems to space because cooling is available for free if you orient yourself away from the sun and so on. So I think that is very interesting. What we can offer to our customers is that elimination of a waiting period to get to orbit. Right, that is what we're targeting. Today, the biggest problem, we hear about a lot of SpaceX launches happening, a lot of other launches also happening. Yeah. But I think one particular area that is not addressed is, will we be able to customize a launch for a small rocket, a small satellite? I've not seen that happen. Still, small satellites have to do a ride share to space.
Okay.
And so any small satellite that wants to do a dedicated ride to orbit, that is a good target customer.
Just on the back of what you've been able to do with Agnibaan, how much did it cost you to take this up, to put this together? And what is the kind of cost advantage that you believe Indian startups will be able to offer?
See, I think the cost advantage in space technology comes actually from engineering differentiation, right? There's a saying that there's no such thing as a low quality space product, right? So you really cannot compromise and cut corners on cost just to get a particular product at a particular price out. It has to meet a certain standard. So the cost efficiencies that we have been able to achieve in AgniKul is by using engineering, innovations like single piece 3D printed engine. Our entire avionics architecture is, based out of a regular Ethernet protocol, which is what we all use for our, day-to-day networking. So those kind of things is what is going to actually make us more cost-effective. But I think the bigger goal for AgniKul itself is about being available for customers when we need them, as opposed to making us the cheapest available launcher in the world. Of course, we don't want to, make it a very pricey launch. I think we will still be among the probably the most affordable launch vehicles in the world. But the target is not to keep on going on lower on prices, but to keep on giving more flexibility to customers. What we're really targeting is basically a customer just needs to give us 3 parameters, right? Where they would like to launch from, which orbit they would want to go to, and how much mass they're carrying in that particular flight. And that we should be able to configure a vehicle just for us there. So that is the pursuit we are in, and so that automatically addresses a lot of cost advantages and time advantages and so on.
So how much did it cost to put Agnibaan together?
Yeah, I don't know if I can disclose that right now here, but it was, I think, compared to other efforts in the world, I think it has been at a fractional cost. Because a lot of these. Because this is a lot of innovation here, right? I can just give you an example of one part of the vehicle. A typical rocket engine usually costs, I think, of this class probably costs about 70 to 80 lakhs, I would say. About $100,000 is what I've heard. And we were because of a 3D printing technology, we were able to get that done in literally 1/10 of that.
Srinath, what's the next target now? What's the next goal that you've set for yourself? Of course, going orbital is the one that Dr. Goenka has put on your table. But what's the next? And in terms of fundraise, how much and when do you expect to raise more?
I think the next big target would be the orbital launch, as Dr. Goenka also rightly said. That is what is going to give us a commercial product that will quickly address the existing gap in the market today. In parallel, we'll be looking at scaling a little bit, trying to put infrastructure in place so that we're able to increase our launch cadence. That's something that's important to have rapid launches. I think from a funding standpoint, as I told you, there's always a need for money for various different reasons, right? You initially raise because you're doing R&D, and then later you raise because you want to vertically integrate or scale. So I think those kind of needs are always going to be there. The interesting thing is I think we'll also be able to have very specific use cases come in as customers for our launch. So we'll be able to tailor our vehicles for that. That would also determine how much we're raising and when we're raising and so on. But those are the big goals that we have in the next 9 months to 12 months, I would say.
Okay, Srinath, I'm going to end by asking you a little bit of a personal journey. You grew up with teachers and physics and a lot of that around you, but you always wanted to get into space tech, but the family was not particularly supportive of that idea. So electrical engineering was what you decided to do until 2016 and 2017 when you decided to come back and launch AgniKul. For people who are watching this program, and are looking at the possibility of getting into the space tech ecosystem, what would your message be? Take me through what this journey has meant for you, meant to you, and what is it that you would like to leave others with?
Just one clarification there. I think my family was supportive. It's just that they were very worried that I would not get any job in aerospace if I went and did a bachelor's in aerospace engineering. So they just want me to do something more, job friendly, I would say. Now, coming back to anyone who's wanting to do something in space tech, I think, my biggest learning is if you're really pursuing it hard enough, one day the doors would open. I think even this launch is an example of that. 4 attempts before we actually got through all the holes and did an actual launch, which, by the way, was completely successful with all the parameters being nominal. yeah, I think that's the biggest lesson. Keep knocking at the door till the doors open.
Keep knocking at the door till the door opens, and it has indeed for the team at AgniKul. Srinath, thanks so much for joining us. We wish you the very best of luck. And Dr. Goenka, thank you for joining us here on this special edition of Young Turks. We look forward to having you back on the program as you discuss the progress that's being made as far as the in-space initiative is concerned. We appreciate both of you joining us here today on a very special day for all of us here as Indians. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this special edition of Young Turks. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned. The news will continue after this short break.